How do I see the junction in the next 10 to 20 years? Well, it's still going to be the junction. You're still going to have the transportation. You're still going to have the shopping. The college will still be there, obviously. Um, and it's a historic location in the center of Brooklyn. And I see that it's going to expand as far as commercial, because there's so much opportunity because of what is there that is offered to people to come. The transportation, the shopping, the college. And again, congestion could be a problem with traffic, but there's so much there that would attract people. And if we can get more things to come in that would attract more people, that would be a big plus. But I still think the junction is going to thrive. The city of Yes will definitely go on streets that have already commercial establishments to build more housing. There are other parts of Brooklyn and the rest of the city where people are not for the city of Yes because they live in like almost suburban neighborhoods. They don't want to be destroyed, to have 4-story apartment houses or 5-story apartment houses right on their corners or even in the middle of their residential community, especially areas that are landmarked. Now, I'm not sure about this yet, but landmark communities may or may not be immune to this. So we'll have to see about that. But commercial streets, Coney Island Avenue, Flatbush Avenue, Nostrand Avenue, Foster Avenue, any of these streets that are commercial definitely will have some stuff being torn down or some being renovated and built higher for more housing. That I definitely see happening. Before the train arrived at the junction in 1920, the IRT, how did people, let's say, get to Manhattan? How did they travel? It's a good question. You could take the Flatbush trolley all the way down to the Flatbush Avenue extension, and you can get a train that took you across the Manhattan Bridge. The bridge opened in 1909. But before the Manhattan Bridge, you can go to the Brooklyn Bridge to go to Manhattan. How did you do that? There was, let's see, to get to the junction, if you can take another trolley going towards East 16th Street, where the B and the Q train run today. Wait a minute. Nostrand Avenue crosses Fulton Street. Okay. Nostrand Avenue, you can take the Nostrand trolley from the junction. I'm trying to get my train lines here. To Fulton Street. Fulton Street already had an elevated trade line. Elevated at the turn of the century. Okay. And just after the turn of the century. And the Fulton Street line would be connected to downtown Brooklyn, where there was a terminal for the Brooklyn Bridge, because the Brooklyn Bridge had a train going across. So from the junction, you can get to Manhattan across the Brooklyn Bridge, take the Nostrand trolley to Fulton Street, the Fulton trolley over to the Flatbush Avenue, or you can take the Flatbush Avenue trolley up and take it across after 1909 the Manhattan Bridge into Manhattan. So that was how you can get from the junction or from Manhattan to the junction. Either way, the residents around the junction, the people who lived in the area, it was a much easier way to get into Manhattan. All right, as some people say, to get into the city. All right, I always say to the city. All right, I had a neighbor that lived 2 doors down here who passed away a number of years ago. He was in his 90s. Joe Tully, great Irishman, wonderful man. I said, Joe, where are you going? He says, oh, I'm going to New York. I said, what do you mean you're going to New York? You live in New York. No, I'm going to New York. He was going to Manhattan. I said, that's Manhattan. That's the city. He said, no, I'm going to New York, he goes.
So they were excited about it then. And also the students, the
Yes.
population must have been very excited about it.
Listen, there are students at Brooklyn College from Manhattan. There are students in Brooklyn College from Queens, because there are certain programs that are available at Brooklyn College that you may not be able to get elsewhere. All right. Most of the students at Brooklyn College are from Brooklyn, but there are people that from outside the area um, that are at Brooklyn College.
And Brooklyn College has always been a commuter school.
Oh, it was always at Brooklyn, always commuter, because it was in the middle of Brooklyn, right in the middle of the borough, which was another reason why they selected that site as opposed to the other sites, because it was in the center of the borough and available to public transportation. I had a personal experience with discrimination, not here in New York, in Miami, Florida. In 1956, and I want to tell this to a black audience of young people who don't know about this, although they may have known about it by learning. In 1956, my grandparents were living in Miami.
Yes.
They moved there in 1948. They lived in Miami, Florida. In 1956, my mother and my two brothers and I spent the whole summer at a hotel in Miami Beach. My father stayed in New York and he was working. He came down for 2 weeks for his 2-week vacation. So we would get to see my grandparents almost every day, you know. Our third or fourth day in Miami. This is 1956. I was 11 years old growing up. The public school I went to, there were 2 black students. One was Lenny. I knew Lenny very well. He had a sister, Rebecca. And Lenny, I think, I think he was a high school track coach, I think. He lived on Coney Island Avenue near Kings Highway, I remember. And so our third day in Miami was like, hot day, Miami, Florida. And we were at the hotel. My grandparents took us to the biggest department store in Miami. And we're walking around. And I guess the air conditioning wasn't that good. And I was very thirsty. And way over there, I see a pole with a water fountain. And I said to my mother and my grandparents and my brother, I said, I'm thirsty. I want to go over there and get a drink. So they look and they go, okay, go get a drink and we'll meet us over there in the next apartment. I said, okay. So I'm walking over there. And as I walk closer, the pole is like a squared off pole, it's squared off. As I'm getting closer, I can now see 2 water fountains, one on one side and one on the other side. And then I got closer, because where we were standing, we can only see one side of the pole. And one said white and one said colored. And I'm looking at that. Keep in mind, 11 years old, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, okay? 1956. White, colored. An 11-year-old is curious. So I went over to the colored fountain, I turned it on, and clear water came out. I expected to see colored water, pink, red, green. I went over to the white side, and clear water came out. I went back to the colored sign. I looked underneath. I thought maybe there was a switch that somebody forgot to turn on. I looked, turned it on. Again, there was no switch. Clear water. Well, I was thirsty. What did I do? I took a drink from the colored fountain, which was a no-no. Then I hear this big booming voice over there. This white guy in a gray suit with a flower in his lapel, red in the face. Boy, get away from there. Get away from there, boy. And I don't know who he was yelling at. I turned around to see who was yelling at, and there was nobody behind me. And then he started walking briskly in my direction. I quickly ran to the next apartment where my grandparents and my brothers and my mother were. And I ran over. They said, what's the matter? I said, I don't know. That guy, he was yelling at me. What'd you do? I said, nothing. I took a drink from the fountain. Now, where they were standing, they can see both sides. My grandparents should have reminded me, I said, which fountain did you drink from? I said, the colored, but the water's not colored. It's clear. And they look at me and they go, what? This is a true story. I cannot make that up. That was my first experience with segregation.
So in Brooklyn, they didn't have colored.
No, no. You can drink any way you wanted in Brooklyn.
Wow. Interesting.
You can eat in a restaurant with blacks and whites in Brooklyn.
Wow.
That I want to tell that to a black audience of young children, so they can.
Well, we have it now. They will continue to hear it.
1956.
In Miami.
Miami. I was 11 years old, from Brooklyn. There's another person that deserves accolades. Former Borough President Marty Markowitz. I've known Marty since 1974. Although we graduated the same year at Brooklyn College, in 1970, we didn't know each other. All right, we may have passed in the halls without even realizing it. Same with my wife. At high school, we went to the same high school. We didn't know each other, we met a few years after that. But Marty Markowitz, Mr. Brooklyn, in fact, that's his license plate, MRBKLYN. So if you ever see it, you know it's Marty. He was such a pillar of enthusiasm to promote Brooklyn, all of Brooklyn, every community. He was in every community, visiting and promoting it. And you just mentioned that I'm going to be 80 in 5 days. Well, in the other room, I have a birthday card that it's ready to be mailed to Marty. He's 4 days older than I am. He won't admit it.